Hi, Lee. Hi,
Hello.
everybody.
Hi.
Still shuffling children out of my room, sorry. We've got just a few more minutes, I guess, that we'll let everybody get here.
Okay.
Did most people say they could be here tonight?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I thought Anna said she was here, but we're missing Tom, Anna,
And Bob?
and Bob. Yeah.
Hmm.
I see some applicants aren't here yet either, so. We're feeling the Monday, I guess. Everybody's
Yes.
late.
Not yet.
1, 2, 3. We do. Oh, Joe, you're on twice. You're throwing me off. Oh, here's Anna.
I'm working on a third. I'm working on a third time. is weird.
Well, let's see.
Tom, too.
There's Tom.
Yeah.
So maybe we should just. Maybe we should start.
Yeah.
Yep.
Joe, which one works for your volume or your sound? If you muted the video one and did you call in? Otherwise, we are ready to start.
Okay. Well, it sounded okay. Now I don't hear that feedback.
I agree.
Okay. Well, I'd like to start our Madison Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Agency meeting for February 6, 2023. Our start time is 7:04 p.m. And before I get into the agenda, are there any items that we need to add to the agenda? Is there anything that's not included?
Not
Okay.
to my knowledge.
Okay, great. Well, our first item is public hearing for application 22-42, 31 Stony Lane. As you'll see on the agenda, the applicant has asked for and been granted an extension to our March 6th meeting. So I would entertain a motion from someone to approve the continuance of this public hearing.
I move we approve
Welcome.
2242
Enter your meeting ID followed by
31
pound.
Stony Lane, request to be extended until
Have not
the
entered
next
any
meeting,
numbers.
March
Please re-enter
6th.
your meeting ID.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Lots of seconds. All right. All in favor of continuing this hearing? Raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. No one's opposed. Okay. So that takes us to our regular meeting. And so our first application is 22-45, 44 Middle Beach Road West. We tabled this for additional information from January 9th. And the applicant has submitted some extra documentation, and it looks like we have Mr. Mandel here to kind of maybe go over or briefly discuss the updates.
Yes, good evening, Chuck Mandel, agent for the applicant, James Barth. So last meeting, if we recall, there were a couple of deficiencies in the plan. One was a drive under garage, and then the other one was a more comprehensive mitigation plan for the area that there were some wood chips and some clearing that the homeowner had done. Bob Russo has submitted, he gave us an updated planting plan, which is reflected on the plan that we sent in today showing the revised grading. He also had a report, and I know Anna was concerned about the hydrophytic relationship and make sure that they were the proper planting. So Bob did address that, and that's also in the report. So keeping that in mind, that we did take care of the discrepancies from the last plan, and the commission had seen that. I'll just entertain any questions if there are any at this point. Just for people, maybe someone wasn't there, one of the key ingredient for this was the house is being demolished. They're keeping the foundation. They're going to be raising it to make it FEMA compliant, and there's going to be an additional footprint for some steps to the west, and that's to allow for the extra height. So in order to get the extra height, you need a couple more steps to get up there. And there was additional. And on the east side, we were adding onto the porch, but that is completely away from the inland wetlands. And to the east is, that's all titled, described on the plan.
This is the updated plan that our office received, I either yesterday or today, highlighting, both noting that Bob Russo was the soil scientist of record, and also his recommended plantings here, hand removal of wood chips, and planting of New England restoration mix, and the shrub list, the native shrubs here, as well as their quantity.
And there
And
was
then
a
the last-
supplemental report.
Yep, I could share that as well. That one came in today in case the members haven't had an opportunity to read that. So I do have
think,
that.
Aaron,
I'll
it's short enough. We might as well just put it on the screen so some commissioners can see it.
Yep. The only other question, I can't remember if you just mentioned this, Chuck, I apologize. There was just a request to have some detail that the portion of the retaining wall was going to be removed.
Yep, right there.
To
Yep.
include the drive, and then some elevations here as well shown.
Right, so there's a proposed 8 grade, so there won't be a wall there. It's going to be a sloped section. But the wall is removed.
There's also a note on the plan, based on the site visit. There was an existing gravel pad that was installed at a prior date, and the applicant has decided to remove that. And my assumption is it's a grass area would be reverted to lawn area. Is that correct, Chuck?
Yeah, whatever. He's not planning on putting a lawn there. I think once the gravel comes up, whatever native species fills it in, we'll just fill it in.
Okay, let me get you Bob Russo's report as well. Again, this is from Bob Russo at CLA, identifying that he has visited the walk and reviewed the scope of project. Species were chosen because they're native and suited to the hydrology on the site, providing local benefit for wildlife and aesthetics. Invasive species control involves oversight by a qualified professional, 3 years of treatment and removal. The timeframe will enable the existing and planted shrubs to become well-established and dominant over the invasives. So the question would be in moving forward if the agency wanted to require that annual report for the 3 years as the monitoring of the invasives and removal has been recommended by the soil scientist.
Yeah, that was my question, because it's not the monitoring isn't on the plan. I appreciate that the plan does reflect the plantings and the
You're right.
species. It's very nicely updated. But yeah, I think we had discussed, I went through the minutes from last time, and yes, we typically have been asking applicants doing these types of restoration projects or monitoring for at least 3 years. And not just, and I guess the definition there is defining what percentage of the plantings survive from year to year. And typically, I think we've been saying, you guys can remind me, I think it's 80% survival.
I think
That
you're right.
That's right. I think that's right.
So of the plantings, expecting 80% to survive, and with the assumption, or maybe not the assumption, but explicitly stating that if they don't all survive, to supplement the ones that haven't made it within that 80% survival. So that's what we've been doing. Are there, from agency members, are there any comments or additions or?
Yeah, I guess I'm a little bit confused. Is there a note on the plan like Bob Russo mentioned? I didn't see the revised plan today. It's a shame on me, but if there's,
Chuck Mandel, it was in the narrative that he provided. You can attach that.
Yes, in the
It's part of the
report.
condition. Yes, it's in the report.
Right, it's in the report, but it's not which is fine. It's not on the plan, so it's something we would have to verbalize, I think.
Oh, yeah, it's certainly part of the
in it.
record. At this, yes.
That we don't necessarily need it on the plan as well, because it's a condition, right? Is that's
Right. Doesn't
Right.
have, I'm verbalizing it to make sure that we include it in
okay.
whatever
Yep.
resolution we decide, if that's something we want to include. Are there other questions from agency members? Comments? Nothing.
All good.
Okay.
Oh.
I drove, by the site today and down. It's certainly obviously a very wet area, wetlands, all around. It's nicest. I'm happy for the homeowner that they're going to be elevated. And I think that Bob Russo did a nice job of, capturing what's out there and coming up with a plan. And I think consistent with previous decisions, we've implemented a monitoring plan for 3 years. I think that's consistent with what we've done in the past. So I think that all makes sense.
Okay. Well, then I am going to recommend that. So we have a draft
I
resolution.
can screen share that for you, Kayla. I was just
Okay.
working on that modified language for condition 3 to include that. Let me screen share it and then we can kind of talk through that, or somebody can give it a shot first. But I was looking at number 3, the applicant shall complete restoration of inland wetland area as shown on approved site development plan and referenced in the report by soil scientist. And we can include that language of said maintenance of invasive species and viability of shrubs shall be monitored for 3 years from date of approval. Is that sufficient to
I
add in
think
there?
that's it, except I'd add.
Or from date of installation, sorry.
Yeah, and something about replacing ones that don't make it.
For the 80%
Under the-
survival rate.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, well, would someone like to do a first motion of the evening? We can all take turns.
Let's see. I'd like to make a motion that we approve application number 22-45, 44 Middle Beach Road West, with the conditions itemized in the letter prepared by the town, including the inland wetland agent would be notified within 48 hours prior to commencement of regulated activity, that at all times during the site work and until soil areas are stabilized, the applicant shall install and maintain erosion sedimentation control measures such as fabric filter fence, stake hay bales, or other measures deemed necessary by the agency to prevent erosion and sedimentation impacts to the wetlands and watercourses. Erosion control and soil stabilization measures shall comply with the approved plan and the guidelines as established in Connecticut Guidelines for Soil and Erosion Control 2002. Location of the filter fabric fencing as shown on the approved site development plan shall serve as the limit of construction. Additionally, per approved plan, orange construction fencing will be installed at the limit of disturbance to serve as visual reminder during construction activities. The applicant shall complete restoration of inland wetland area as shown on approved site development plan. Additionally, the gravel pad located to the southwest of the residence shall be removed and reverted to lawn area. Condition 4, we are stipulating that a 3-year wetland restoration monitoring plan be implemented, whereby annual reports are submitted to the wetland enforcement officer, condition of the installed wetland vegetation, and that by a 3-year time period, that 80% of the installed vegetation would have survived.
Okay. And do we have to read through all the rest of that?
The
I
rest is
wonder-
your standard language, so you can say as indicated on here, that's okay.
Okay, excellent.
And the remainder as indicated on here.
Great. All right. So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? Any clarification?
Oh, good.
Okay. All right. Well, all in favor of this amended approval for this application?
All right.
Raise your hand, say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Great.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chuck.
Thank you. Aaron, I have a quick
Aye.
question. Do I need to be for the Cops Road applications at the end here, or can I sign off?
No, there's not going to be a presentation, Chuck, so we can update you as to whether or not the commission's going to schedule a walk.
Okay. sure.
And we have to determine what day that is going to be because our annual calendar shows that as a holiday weekend. So we're going
Okay.
to
Well,
try.
I'm down in the Keys and I want to go fishing, so I
Nice.
was hoping to sign off.
Awesome.
Oh, so we'll
Yeah,
keep
that
you on
case
a little
we-
longer.
that
I
case
should have
we
put
need
you
you.
as the last application.
Okay, thank you very much.
Enjoy.
Thanks, Chuck. Bye-bye.
Okay. Well, for the rest of us here in Connecticut, or
Right.
at least on Zoom, the next application is 22-48, 69 Kelsey Springs Drive. Again, this is an application that we discussed at our last meeting and asked, in particular, we were interested, the applicant had an option that he was thinking of moving a house slightly to, I think it was going to be further away and also to avoid a tree. And so we just asked, and he hadn't gone to the health department. So I think we asked, we suggested that maybe he would want to wait until tonight. So looks like we have Mr. Anderson to speak for the applicant.
Good evening, everyone. As I was switching over to become a panelist, I didn't hear any of what you just said, so I apologize.
I think they denied it, Todd. Sorry.
I had to update the app before I could even join the meeting, and wow, this is frustrating. So I apologize.
That's okay. All I did is say that we
I
had
heard a
heard the
couple
application last month, and that we had that you were going to check with the health department and then check with your client to see if they were going to move the house or shift it more or less.
So we did end up moving the house 15 feet further to the west. We shifted the septic. The septic review has been submitted to the health department. I have not heard back from them yet. So the house got moved over 15 feet. He did a slight revision to the house where he wanted to add on more of a front porch for aesthetic reasons. So that increased the square footage of coverage. So it actually pushed it back a couple feet more from the road than what we had before. We've also taken the galleys for the roof leaders, and instead of using the storm techs, we are using 30-inch galleries and put them parallel with the house rather than kind of at an angle, which in turn moves our limit of disturbance about 20 feet further away from the pond. So we are about 1.5 feet, 2 feet closer to the rear wetland boundary, but we are 15 feet further away from the pond and about 20 feet further away from the pond with the limit of disturbance. As was discussed at the last meeting, the gravel area, which the client said that he was going to revert to grass anyways, that was not on the plan. So we have added that to the plan to note that that is going to be loomed and seeded. And he also said when they get around to paving the driveway, he will install a curb at that location and also the existing curb cut, which is about 20 or 30 feet further towards the pond from the proposed driveway. So those two areas, he said that he would put curbs in when paving the driveway. Other than that, the stockpile location got moved back, a few feet to accommodate the moving of the house and everything. The other thing that you were asking about was the location of the piping for the geothermal well. That is only a water line similar to a domestic well water line that's going to go straight from the well to the house. Other than that, we have not changed. Obviously, we shifted the septic over, turned it sideways to accommodate the moving of the house. I'm confident that the health department will approve this the way it is. If anything, they may require us to raise the system by a little bit if they feel uncomfortable with the depth that we have designed it at. But that is not going to change the grading. That is still located outside of the 100-foot review zone. We have plenty of pitch to get from the house to that septic. So that wouldn't be a case of if we had to raise the septic, we would have to raise the house and it would change any of the grading in the front of the house. So even if we had to do any revisions to the septic, that would not affect anything to do within the 100-foot review zone. I think I've covered all the changes and everything that was mentioned at the last meeting. So I'm open if you have any new questions or comments.
All right. Do any agency members have comments or questions on this revised plan?
Yeah, I have a couple of quick questions. The geothermal proposed well is next to the stockpile, if I'm reading the plans right. Is that correct?
Yes.
And the pipes coming into the, I don't see it on the plans, but the pipes coming into the corner of the house?
Yeah, right from the geothermal well, it's kind of at a 45-degree angle to the house.
Yeah,
That pipe
yeah.
would be coming right into the basement in that area.
And as I'm a little layman, how so you got to pipe it over to the house and pipe it back because it's a closed loop system, correct?
Yes.
So is the piping similar to what a normal well piping would be, like you have in the front of the house? Is it similar in diameter, or is it larger to accommodate more water flow? Or
I am not a geothermal expert by any means, and I don't know, but the couple geothermal wells I did see being installed, I think the piping was similar to a force main for a septic, like 1.5 inch or 2 inch or so. It's not humongous piping.
so
Whereas a domestic well, I think, is like 3/4 inch or 1 inch piping.
So level of disturbance won't be too great then. That's what
Yeah.
I'm kind of trying to. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, sorry.
Other questions?
I just want to add that, yeah, I have a geothermal system on one of my houses. And that description of the diameter of the piping is accurate. And I found, like any well installation, it's the actual drilling of the well and the tailings coming up that tend to be more of a mess than perhaps a trench for the water line. And so as long as the erosion control's in good shape there, then I don't think that would be a problem, especially in these sandy soils. I'm glad the house shifted over. I was out on the site today and looked at the previous plans and was thinking the same thing, that an increased buffer around the pond would be a good idea. So I like that change in the design. I also like the limit of construction as it stands. It's within the field. It doesn't encroach on the existing tree line. It doesn't encroach on those cedars in there and those little pines. And I think that buffer along that wetland corridor and certainly by the pond is important. And maybe there might be some consideration around, preserving that to the extent practicable. And lastly, I apologize. I missed the last meeting. I'm not sure if there was any discussion around the functions and values of that pond. I saw Snarski's report and it did, talk about the vegetation, hydrology, and soils associated with the wetland. It was a brief report, but I don't know if anybody mentioned, the value of that pond or it was discussed. So I'm just putting that out there.
The pond wasn't, the functions and values weren't discussed. Is that pond, I'm just looking at the plan. So I guess part of it's on the property.
Yeah, a very small portion of
Yeah.
it is. And to go back to what Martin was saying about the buffer plantings around the edge of the mowed lawn, a lot of those trees were planted by my client. He has owned this property for years. He actually lives in the neighborhood in a larger house, and he's building this as his retirement home and hoping that his son moves into his home, so he's close in the neighborhood there.
I
But
see.
those little pine trees, the younger plantings were all planted by my client, and that was another catalyst for the reason of moving the house, was to make sure that we wouldn't have to damage any of those or be anywhere near any of the treetops and have to trim any of the trees.
Okay. Yeah, looking at the plan again, I see that the pond is largely off-site. There's houses on the other side, and
Yeah.
yeah, and it looks like it's pretty free flowing, and there's a big culvert there. So I just was wondering if that was part of the discussion before.
No, it wasn't.
Okay.
I don't think. I think
Yeah, we were more focused on the fact they didn't commit to an exact location for the house.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I guess and the closer wetland, because everything is kind of away from the pond.
Yeah. I've
but
watched
that's a
that
good point.
neighborhood. Yeah, I've watched that neighborhood get developed over the last 10 years. And this is sort of the remaining lot, and
Yep.
and it's a nice spot for a house. So
There's this one and one more.
oh, okay.
Yeah, I think there's one more across the street. Are there other questions or comments on this application?
No questions.
No. I appreciate the additional information that was added, and also I think it was good that we did postpone this since your client decided to move it, so that all seemed to work out well for everyone. There is a staff draft resolution. If someone would like to make a motion.
I move that we approve application 2248 69 Kelsey Springs Drive with the conditions laid out, the three conditions laid out in the staff memo dated February 6th, 2023.
Okay. And Aaron has nicely shared this. Do we need to read all of it out loud, Aaron, or since we're going directly with your draft?
You can reference the draft, that's fine.
Okay. All right. So we have a motion to approve this resolution, as you all can see on your screen. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. Martin has seconded. Are any last remaining comments or questions? No one once? No? Okay. All in favor? Raise your hand, say aye.
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 Okay. Any opposed? There's no opposed. All right. You are approved as
Thank you very much.
conditions.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Have a great night, everyone. Thank you.
You
Thank you,
too,
Todd.
Todd. Thanks.
He didn't say if he was going to Key West or whatever.
Yep.
It's good. Don't rub it in.
No,
The rest of
I
us.
wish I was able to go to Key West. I had a client of mine call me this morning and say, you ready to go for the week? I'm like, where are we going? I'm like, which island? He's like, oh, the Caribbean. I'm like, let's leave now. I don't even need to pack. I'll buy stuff down there. Let's go now.
Exactly.
And we all feel, I think.
I know.
Have a great night.
You
All
too.
right. Thank
You,
you.
Todd. Thanks. Okay,
All right.
Madison Springs
Yep.
is my cut.
Yes, so we've got application 23-02, 43 Madison Springs Drive. This is one we did a site walk for. So the applicant would like to put in an in-ground swimming pool and a patio within the 100-foot review. And there's Mr. Ott.
Good evening. Are you ready for me? I missed what you said also.
That's fine. Apparently no one's listening to me tonight, which is
Oh,
fine.
it goes.
There is a lag
There's
when
a
you
lag
get
when you-
promoted.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So good. Sorry. Good
All I said is that there's a proposal to put in a pool with associated improvements. And then I said,
Okay.
here's Mr. Ott.
Okay. So good evening. Just for the record, I'm Mike Ott. I'm a licensed professional engineer and land surveyor with Summerhill Civil Engineers here in Madison on Wall Street. I'm not going anywhere fancy tonight, too. I'm here in Madison for the night. So can I share my screen, Aaron? Or do you
Yes,
want?
please.
Can you all see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, so this is 43 Madison Springs Drive. And I'm here tonight on behalf of the property owner, Rachel Kelly. I think most of you, were on the site walk a couple Saturdays ago, and you received this application at your regularly scheduled January meeting, I think. So the proposal, this is Madison Springs Drive at the top of the sheet. The proposal is to construct the septic system is in the backyard today. So the proposal is to remove the leaching field as well as the existing leaching fields approximately in this location and remove the existing septic tank, construct a new septic tank here, an effluent pump chamber, wastewater effluent pump chamber here, a force main to the front yard, pump up the effluent to the front yard to a new leaching field in the front yard. And all of that would allow the construction of this in-ground pool that's shown. This is an 18 by 36 pool with 4 feet of patio on 3 sides and 14 feet on this side. Those of you who were on the site walk probably remember the site. There was a lot of, I think it's Pachysandra, if I remember right, ground cover. In the wetland, a very large tree stump here, roughly here. I guess the tree had fallen on the roof of the house at some point. And it was lawn. This area that we are disturbing today is lawn. So the limits of disturbance are defined by the sediment control barrier, this dark dashed line, which is in the lawns. All the activity will take place in the lawn. And that's really it. And I think other than, I think it was you, Kayla, who had asked about the fence at the site walk. And I spoke with the owner, and the owner would like to, just like her neighbor on this side, would like to do what a lot of people do. They'll put, a dark color, black or green wire fence, kind of in the wooded area on the side, on the 2 side property lines. And she would like to do the same thing across the back, and it would go no further into the woods than 5 feet or so into the wood line. So I think that's really it in a nutshell. If you all have any questions, be glad to try to answer them for you.
Could you clarify what you mean? So are you by no more than 5 feet into the wood line? Are you saying that she wants the fence at what you have is the limits of construction or whatever, wherever you're gonna have the ENS control?
It's close, yeah. I think I had explained when we were out in the field, the survey was done before I got involved, and the survey doesn't show the limit of the lawn and the edge of the woods, but I estimated it by measuring off this deck here. So yes, the fence, the rear fence, this fence, required by the building code, would be roughly where the sediment control area is, and it wouldn't be a chain link fence. I'm assuming you're all familiar. A lot of people will, in order to meet the building code, they'll have a fence at the right height, but if you put it in the woods or in a hedgerow or in a landscaped area where where the plant material is relatively high, they'll just use a wire fence. So visually it kind of goes away. The fence doesn't really jump out at you. It's much more attractive, but it meets the requirements of the building code. So that's what I meant by a wire fence.
And just to be clear, that fence isn't shown right now on the plan. That's the dashed line is soil erosion, right?
Yeah, the dark dashed line is the sediment control barrier.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Hey, Mike, it's Bob. The distance from the sediment erosion barrier to the actual wetland markings, I'm trying to gauge that. It's about 30 feet, 35 feet.
It's actually from wetland flag 4 right here, Bob, if you can see my cursor.
Yeah, I see it.
Straight up perpendicular to the barrier is 24 feet.
24, okay.
This distance right here.
And what's the grade from the sediment? I'm trying to remember, from the sidewalk. Is it pretty gradual down to the wetland boundary?
Yeah, I think so. It's pretty gradual. You can see.
Are we disturbing trees or?
Oh, go ahead, Bob. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Are we disturbing any trees or plants within the area or the scope of the work?
No, that's kind of what I was. Maybe I didn't do a good job.
No, you probably did. It was probably.
Yeah. All of this work is in existing lawn today. All of the work shown is actually in existing lawn, including the installation of these 2 tanks. This is all everything within the limits of the sediment control barrier today is lawn. I think. Well, I don't know if you were you on the? No, you weren't on the sidewalk, Barbara, right?
No.
So no, there's no removal of any vegetation. It's all happening within a lawn. All of the work is within a lawn.
I have a just quick clarification here. So the sedimentation control barriers shown about 24 feet from the wetlands?
At the closest point, Martin, at wetland flag 4, this perpendicular distance is 24 feet.
Okay, and the proposed fence, is that gonna go at the line of the erosion control?
Yes, that's what I was trying to say, yes.
Okay, but it'll be more, perpendicular to the sidelines.
It has to, of course, if you can see my cursor moving, be parallel to the long dimension of the pool.
Yep.
Then it'll go up to the property boundaries on both sides. And it'll, you know, I would imagine it would hook back to the corner of the house here.
Mhm.
And they would do something, you know, they have to, of course, enclose the whole area by the building code.
And the fence is in a grassed area, and the 24 feet between the fence and the closest point of the wetlands starts to become wooded. I mean, we don't see a wood line on this map. I did take a peek out there, you know, there's looks like lawn right up to, you know, sort of wooded wetland. And Snarcy's report, you know, is consistent with that as well. So it looks like we've got some lawn, even lawn behind the fence.
Yeah, there was, so I don't know if you heard me, but the surveyor who did this survey did not delineate the edge of the lawn and the edge of the woods. And Rich Snarsky was not involved in this project. Actually, Bob Russo delineated the wetland boundary.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking of a different report. So there was actually no report associated with this application. It was just a delineation, as I recall. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, there's a note
Yeah.
on the drawings here that Mr. Russo delineated the.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm sorry. I have that confused with another report.
Oh, that's okay. It's all right.
Yeah. So we don't.
So yeah, so all of the work, let me say it a better way. So all of the construction, with the exception of the installation of wire fence, will occur within a current lawn area. The wire fence here is, by my estimation, 5 feet or so into the woods.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
That's what I was trying to explain.
So
I guess.
erosion
ahead,
control
Martin.
is, yeah, the erosion control is into the woods then too.
It's right at the edge. It's
Yeah.
right at the edge by my measurements. Yeah.
Go ahead, Kayla. I'm sorry.
Well, I guess because I mean, it just seems that it would be helpful to have. Well, because you're saying you're estimating that it's going to be 5 feet in, but then you're saying that it's right at the edge of the woods. So, you know, it might be helpful to have the fence on the plan at some point.
Well, I can certainly add the fence to the plans, but you know, it's a wire fence. They drive a metal post into the ground. It's not a chain link fence. They drive a typical inch wide green metal post into the ground and clip wire fence to it. That's the only work that will take place right outside the edge of the lawn. I can certainly revise the plans and show the fence. I can take measurements and show the fence accurately on the plans and give those plans to submit those plans to Aaron. Be glad to do that.
Well, I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, it's kind of an obvious omission, but.
And honestly, in my mind, Mike, it's not about the construction activity associated with installing the fence. A fence is a barrier, you know, it's a physical barrier to, you know, wildlife migration and, you know, plants growing, you know, up through the fence on the other side. It really becomes a physical barrier to a lot of what's happening, you know, in the wetland and in the buffer area versus, you know, the lawn area. And, you know, there's a lot of, let's just say, square footage activity within the regulated area. And the more you push, you know, a fence into a wooded area, the bigger that square footage of impact becomes. And so I think knowing really where the fence will lie relative to the wooded area and what that wooded fringe looks like, and maybe some thoughts from the soil scientist, I think are in order. Normally, like a pool in a grassed area is typically, in my mind, you know, a slam dunk. But in looking at this area and then seeing again on a plan how close, you know, we are getting to that wooded buffer, I think becomes more important on a plan like this. And, you know, in my mind, so some more details and maybe a little bit more information, I think might be warranted.
So I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just have one question as far as if it's the, you know, it's metal, it's almost, to me, it reminds me of garden fencing. I use it to enclose my garden, that type of fencing. Is is it preferred by the commission that that's on the inside, on the lawn side, rather than being within the wooded area? I'm just concerned, I'm not clear as to what your concern is, Martin, as far as creep of lawn area into the wooded area, or if it is specifically for animal, use. I'm just trying to get a little more
If it's more about
clarification of what you're looking.
since the proposed impacts are already pretty close to the wetland boundary, 24 feet's pretty close. It sounds like the fence is getting into the wooded buffer, the vegetated buffer of the wetlands and outside the lawn. Like lawn seems to be okay. It's already disturbed. It's being mowed. The wildlife might go across it or whatever. In terms of a wetland buffer, the lawn doesn't really offer much. But the further we move that fence, into the wooded area, then things become, it becomes more of an impact to the wetland fringe. And to the extent we can keep the fence in the grassed area or right, just inside the grassed area, I think is better. And since we don't have it on the plan, we don't have the wood line shown, I think that we're sort of not talking very specifically here so far. And I think it's important to keep the fence out of the wooded wetland buffer, especially in this instance where we've got only 24 feet to the wetland line. And I'm sure the wooded area is outside that wetland line.
So to make this, to satisfy the commission, why don't we, if you're willing, make this a condition of approval that the fence be at the edge of the lawn and not extend into the wooded area. And like I said, I believe from my measurements, that would be at the sediment control area. In fact, it doesn't matter. You can make it a condition of approval that the fence be at the location of the sediment control barrier shown on this plan. And that is within the lawn. That is not, the sediment control barrier is not in the woods. Of course, there has to be a fence, unfortunately, by the building code.
Yes.
Right.
Once it's no longer shadowing the pool, it can come up away from the wetland and go up to the side property boundaries.
Sure.
Kind of like I didn't do this on purpose, but kind of like the sediment control barrier is shown today, something like that.
Yeah.
If you're concerned about the wire fence being within, creeping into the wood line, why don't we just make it a condition of approval that it is to be located at the edge of the lawn, which is pretty well defined if you were on the sidewalk.
That sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah, that works for me too.
Since you'll be adding symbology, Mike, to a future plan, could you just add the location of the underground utilities between the pool and the concrete pad for the pool equipment?
I could, yeah, sure.
Okay, that's it for me.
Other questions or comments?
I did have one question for, is it listed anywhere who and when the delineation was done? I saw there's a comment in the top right, but I don't think it says exactly who and when did it.
Well, as I said earlier, Bob Russo did it. I do not know when he did it. He did it for the surveyor. The survey, I don't know if you all heard me, but the survey was done prior to me being involved with the project. But the record survey indicates that Mr. Russo delineated the wetland boundary. I could look if you can hang on a second.
That's what I was going to ask you, Mike, if you had a copy of the survey, if it had a specific note. I know the application identifies Bob Russo as the soil scientist, but that doesn't have a date.
Bear with me one second. I can tell you in 1 second whether.
I don't believe Bob was the original subdivision soil scientist
Oh,
on
that's what I
this
was
project.
wondering. Mm.
So
No,
my
no,
thought
he-
is that he's been out there as associated with the actual survey, but a copy of that survey wasn't in the application, just the
So
reference.
Bob, so just for the record, Bob Russo was not the wetland scientist or soil science when the subdivision was done. He did it for the surveyor. And if you bear with me 1 second, I should be able to tell you. I'm sorry, I just have to find it. I do have a copy of it. I think it was only done a few months ago.
The survey is dated December, I think, on your
If
note.
November, let me share my screen. I'll show you the survey. It was November 17th of 2022. I'll see if I can share my screen again. This is the survey that was done, and let me just zoom in on the notes. Can you see note number?
Okay.
Okay.
Yep. Answer the question.
Okay.
Wait, can you email a copy of the survey just for our file records, so we have it as your reference, Matt?
Sure.
Then in case we're looking for it again down the road, since it's not filed anywhere else, then we'll have it.
Sure.
I have one last question, or at least for me. I mentioned this on the site. It's pretty shady, and so I'm hoping that the homeowner won't be disappointed in the canopy cover, given that currently there are no trees designated as being cut, is my understanding. Is that right?
Yeah, no trees are being cut. In fact, no vegetation at all is being removed.
Okay. I just
Yep.
want to be crystal clear that that's the case. And
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Other comments, questions for the applicant? Okay. So I think we have some modifications for this
Mhm.
resolution.
I can
Um,
share what I have here,
Okay.
and we can move on to a number 3, I guess, would be a condition.
Okay. So we want to take a start at a motion for this application. It's application 23-02, 43 Madison. 43 Madison Springs Drive.
I make a motion that we accept application 2302 based upon the staff recommendation of conditions 1 and 2. And then we add a third condition that the engineer marked clearly the fence that has been proposed but will be installed subject to state regulations for pools as discussed at the meeting, and otherwise in accordance with the staff recommendations for the motion reviewed tonight.
Okay.
I'll second Bob.
Hold it.
Oh,
Sorry, it's discussion before the second. I'm sorry.
No, we can second and then.
Oh, sorry.
So Joe seconded it. Don't worry.
Sorry, Joe.
yeah,
We
I
need
was
a
gonna second it
parliamentarian.
and just make sure it was approve and not accept. We're approving it.
Yeah, okay, so we have a motion, we've had a second, and now we can discuss if we want to add or change anything to the motion.
I just want to add, thank you, Bob. I would just want to add to item 3 that the proposed fence will be installed within the existing grassed area.
Right, not in the woods.
Yes.
I would further that with the pool equipment as well. I think it's a understood, but that both the fence and the pool equipment would be within the existing lawn area.
The
Yeah, I
pool
think it's-
equip- The pool equipment location is actually shown on the drawings. It's right up against the back of the house.
Right.
Oh, excellent, even better.
No,
And
but I
yes,
think, I think Joe wanted to see the line of coming from the pool. The
He
utility line.
does. He does.
Yeah.
Yep.
yeah.
So I think
So,
that's what, both are good points that I missed in my motion, so I agree with both of them.
right, to see the utility, right, is that, Joe, you wanted to see the utility lines to the pool equipment?
Correct.
Okay,
Yep.
so we have our motion, we have the first two as stated here, our third has been amended to include the fence as discussed, that will be within lawn, not within wood, and will be shown on the plans, and to have the pool equipment line, the utility line shown as well. Any other comment or discussion on our motion? Okay. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
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 I,
Any opposed? All right, abstaining? Nope, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Conditionally approved.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Have a
Bob.
good night. Have a good night.
You too.
Bye.
Okay. Our last voting application of the evening is 23-03, 15 Prospect Street. This is an application we've been to a couple of times now. And this was our site walk a couple weeks ago. And we have, yes,
Michael Harkin and Travis is here. Travis Bulick is here as well.
excellent.
Builder.
Great. And we've had some revisions since we last walked the site, even just this last couple times. So, Mr. Harkin, did you want to briefly talk about the updates?
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
You can hear me, but I can't hear you. It's
We're good.
You can't?
Can you hear us now?
Oh, he can't hear us?
No. What are you doing, Mike?
Well-
What happened?
That's a
I
bummer.
can't hear. You're muted now, Mike.
Is he muted or, because we can hear him?
he needs a sound engineer.
He's muted.
Want to log me out and try to get me
There
back
you
in?
go. You better?
Sure, go ahead. You may have to update your settings.
What is wrong with you? What are you doing? What are you doing? Yeah.
Still nothing, guys.
Really?
You can't hear us?
It's got to be your speakers.
How about I leave and try to come back in, maybe?
Did you go to your microphone?
Sound.
Can you
Yeah, I
click
think
on the little arrow by your microphone, Mike? Oh, he
I think
can't hear
Aaron's
me.
right.
Well, read the words on the screen. The little up arrow at your microphone.
Can't help you.
For
So it
God's
was
sake.
working fine until I switched over as a panelist. It says it's on your end and not my end. Yeah, crazy.
No, it's absolutely not. It's a speaker. Okay, Mike, so just,
So why don't we do this? So why don't I leave the meeting and try to come back on direct, if you guys can hear me?
We
We
can
can hear
hear-
you.
yep. So we'll let,
Okay, he's on the clock.
I know, we were moving along so well. Travis is here. I don't know how Travis is, if you've got a room full of children, Travis, or if you're able to,
I'm staying on mute for that reason, just in case.
I figured as much.
It's bedtime over here, so you know how that works.
So just to recap while we're waiting for Mike to rejoin us, you do, and we do have a revised site development plan that came in after the site walk. The commissioners who were on the site walk, the inland wetland delineation, and the water course that was field delineated for, okay, Mike is coming on again as a panelist. And the question was raised during the site walk, or at least by me, and subsequently after the site walk. I raised these points with both Travis and Michael. One, we needed some, can you hear us now, Mike?
Yeah, I can hear you now. That was pretty strange.
Oh, good. Okay, so Mike, I was just recapping how since the site walk, I had asked you for some additional information, specifically there was one odd spot elevation of elevation 10, surrounded by a bunch of 8s on site, which didn't really make too much sense. And also to provide additional detail regarding the outlet structure for the relocated storm drain pipe, and how that exactly looks, within that water course area, and some proposal for stabilizing that bank, since that is a 3-foot drop at basically a 1-to-1 ratio. So Mike, are you able to screen share that so that the
Yeah, why
commission
don't
can
you just put
see?
it up, just because I don't know what's going on with the computer, so it'll just make it easier. All right, good evening, everybody. For the record, my name is Michael Harkin. I'm a professional engineer and principal of Harkin Engineering, located at 78 Wolf Hollow Lane in the town of Killingworth, Connecticut. Again, here tonight on behalf of my client, Gulick and Company, LLC, for their client, Hillary and Curtis Baker. Again, it's 15 Prospect Street. It's known as Assessor's Map 16 and Lot 12. So as Aaron was saying, you guys seen this application before. Previously, we lifted the house for FEMA. We put an addition on. At that time, we showed the swimming pool, the landscape terrace, and the relocation of the storm drainage trench. At that time, you guys, more so the town engineer and Aaron said, hey, we need to find out more detail on that existing pipe. So we removed the pool and the drainage off the original approval and just got the raising of the house to be FEMA compliant and the addition approved. And the last 3 months, actually the last 4 months, we've been working with Aaron and the town engineer to rectify the matter with that easement. So we've, Aaron had the public works go out there, dig up the pipe so we can locate the end of it, which we did. We then put together a drainage plan, which the town engineers had reviewed, had us tweak a little bit. They were satisfied with it. So then we came in with the application, which you see here, which is the pool and the terraces as they were before, and the relocated storm drainage pipe that's been approved by the town engineer. So obviously, since then, you've gone on a site walk, you've looked at the area. There was some inconsistencies with the survey. Aaron reported back to me after the site walk. So what we did is we sent the surveyor out there to do a detailed survey of that area, showing all spot elevations. Aaron came back and said there was a couple of trees that you guys had some questions about, whether we can keep them. So again, we put those trees on there. Aaron can point to them. That tree can remain. It's far enough away from that riprap pad that the town engineer wanted. And then Aaron, if you can zoom in on the detail of that area that we put together. We put together a 10 scale of the detail of exactly what's happening there. There's a lot of spot shots. We have proposed and existing grade. And then we have the area which will be digging out to get that riprap splash pad in there. Again, that's something that engineering department wanted. And again, Aaron had some concerns and the commission had some concerns. So we asked our soil scientist, Rob Russo, to put together basically a full report for the project, which we did. I know that Martin had requested that we do that last time that we had this application in front of you. So we did have that the report done, and I'm just going to read one of the last paragraphs because Aaron also wanted them to look at how do we stabilize that slope. So one of Rob Russo's last paragraphs in the report confirmed Rerouting the drainage pipe as shown on the reference plans does not pose potential for long-term or construction-related impacts if the erosion control measures as shown on the plan are adhered to. CLA recommends that the steep slope around the new drainage outlet be protected from erosion with a single hand-placed layer of round field stone that is 10 to 18-inch diameter. And we agree to that. That's something we can do because that riprap splash pad is the same size. It's a modified riprap, so we can just order a little bit extra and have those banks stabilized with that rock. Additionally, something that the town engineer wanted, if Aaron, you can scroll over, we have a detail of the outlet with the riprap splash pad. If you go, so we had that riprap splash pad outlet that was, gone through the engineering department. It's a 5-foot modified riprap splash pad at a 0 NES flat %, and then it will drain out into that swale and then get into the stream that was out there. So where we're at with the whole project is we're in front of you tonight for hopefully approval. We do have the easement map and description sent to the town engineers, which will go to the town attorney, and then we'll file that easement. So there's a legal town easement on this property. So with that being said, that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions that anybody has now that I can hear you.
Hey, any questions from the commission? Agency?
My question for Mike is only 2 catch basins will put water into that newly directed route?
Yes, sir, Martin. But not only those catch basins, the drainage area that flows to them. We're not changing any drainage basins or any drainage flow. It's basically the 2 basins in Prospect Street, but they do carry some water from Texas Road, comes around that bend and flows in there. But we're not proposing any additional water into them.
I was
Mike,
wondering what, go ahead.
Go ahead. I just had a quick question. If I'm reading the map correctly, the inland wetlands are only on the north side of this property and the top side of the design.
Correct.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir, Bob.
And it's all tidal wetlands everywhere else?
No, there are no wetlands elsewhere on the property.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Down gradient by the tennis courts, Bob, that's where the confluence between inland wetland and tidal, I believe, but that's way off the property. I think it's 2 or 3 properties down.
Okay, great. Thanks for your help.
I did manage to get out here and take a look at the site, and I was just wondering, I saw what looks like a sort of an impromptu retaining wall right along the wetlands, right along the silt fence behind, I think where there's a walkway shown on the north side of the house, right around in that area. Yeah, there were some larger stones placed, and sort of a retaining wall that was built there. I was wondering when that happened and if that was part of a previous permitting activity, or is that just part of sort of ongoing work here? I know it's really precarious, we're doing all that work right along, the edge of the wetlands, and maintaining that erosion control, I think, has been a little bit challenging. So I just was curious, when that, if you're familiar with that little retaining wall, when that was done.
Yeah, I am not familiar with it. Maybe Travis, who I know is on here, can talk to it, because he did a detailed analysis of the site before it actually started construction on it. And he's also the general contractor on the project. So
Yeah, I can just speak on that. I'm looking through my photos right now of the whole job. I'm not really sure what retaining wall you're meaning. I don't believe there was no purposing for a impromptu retaining wall. I mean, I know we have the silt fence going along. We have some wood chips along that to really kind of keep it down.
There were some stones that were 2 feet in diameter, stacked maybe too high with some stone on the inside, and they dropped right down to next to the silt fence, and they looked pretty fresh. It looked like a fairly recent installation. And I just was wondering when that happened. Obviously, there's been a lot of activity on this site in recent days with the carpentry work
Where,
and
where was it all the way there near their addition in the
Here?
back corner?
yeah, exactly. Right around in there. Yeah, I wonder if I have a photo of it.
I mean, I know there was a sidewalk back there has always been there, and then because remember if there was that where the addition was, there was an original structure. So
Right.
there might have been something still left in that area, but that's nothing intentional was put there. I don't know if the excavator just had, kind of had a couple of things of rubble there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can go out and take a look as well.
Yeah,
But
needless to say, they
that was
won't be.
not as part of the,
I actually have it. I don't know if anybody can see it, but it's
I can't really see it.
Yeah, I can't really
It's-
see it.
yeah,
Needless to say, they
so-
won't be there by the time everything's done on the site.
well, they probably need to be there because they maintain the elevation behind the building where the walkway is shown and they're right against the wetlands. So
So that might have already been there then, if that's the case. If it
Yeah,
looks,
it's-
I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I could.
yeah,
tell
it
you.
looks pretty fresh. Looks pretty fresh and they're not stacked too high. They're it's just maybe 2 foot in diameter in a row of 4 or 5 of them.
Okay.
And so again, I mean, this is a
Yeah,
tough site.
maybe Anthony Lafata when he was digging that out, maybe
Yeah, and
he
pro-
did do that on purpose when he was doing the
Sure,
silt
there was
fencing and
probably
stuff.
some erosion going
Yeah.
on there somebody took care of it. I mean, it looks
Yeah.
fine. I just was curious if it was part of any permitting. I mean, again, this is sort of an active site. I mean, by all rights and the wetlands are right there. And I did notice where one location, a tree had fallen over the silt fence and this is a site where we have to be really diligent about maintaining those erosion control measures along the back of the property.
and that's something, Martin, that I'm happy to either myself or my interim inspector here who's been assisting me can meet Travis on site and kind of look at that. That should be all, at this point, there have been no modifications from the originally approved site development plan for the additions to the house. So if there has been, some temporary, then would be an understanding, one, if it's not required, that it should be reverted to existing conditions. And if it's a change that impacts, grading adjacent to that wetland line, then a modification may be required to come
Yeah.
back to that
That's-
specific application.
It just sort of
Um,
struck me, somebody was thinking on their feet and trying to mitigate erosion going on back there and
Yeah, it might have been when they're digging there. He was like, "Let me just put these couple rocks down here so the addition
Yeah.
stuff doesn't flow back there."
Yeah.
So it most likely was probably something he was thinking on his feet. I can't recall, but it could easily it'll be reverted back to.
yeah, it's a tough site. But stormwater in the area is going to be improved.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
It's still the same volume of water coming through.
Still the
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
volume, still the same quality. So hopefully we don't change it.
Historically,
Well, we have a splash pad now and it's not
Yes,
flooded
sir.
anymore and
in that
Not
case,
backed up. We cleared it.
yeah, it's good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
yeah,
working
the
now.
outlet would be protected better. The only other, item that I had, as some of my staff notes were just to bring to the attention, the agency's attention that, although the FEMA floodplain regulations do not require a swimming pool to be elevated to base flood, this specific pool is proposed to be elevated. However, when you look at the depth of the pool, it's proposed as a 4-foot pool. And so based on the proposed elevation and existing grade elevations, that actually, while it looks imposing on the property, it actually limits some of the actual site disturbance during construction and excavation from stockpiling perspective and things of that nature. So really the more significant excavation is the relocation of the pipe and then just standard retaining wall footings, I should say. So it's a lot less material than what would be if you were installing that pool below grade. Just,
Right.
from a
We're just scratching the surface. We're not having to dig an 8-foot pool below, to
Right.
zero-
Into
to
the
zero.
ground.
It's
elevation.
uncommon, I think, to see a pool elevated to flood in that sense. So from my perspective, and sometimes wearing my zoning hat, it seems unusual to me. But when you look at it from a wetland perspective, it actually, may propose or show less of an temporary impacts, I should say.
Great. Are there other questions or comments from the agency on this application?
I do. Yeah, just so I'm wondering, so there is a bit of a grade change that's somewhat abrupt and subject to erosion right along the back of the building and so forth. And like I say, it's a tricky area. And on the plans, I see, I see hay bales and I see erosion control and so forth, but we're talking about retaining walls. Is there a retaining wall that's planned back there? Like, what's the treatment for that very narrow strip between the buildings and walkway and the actual wetlands? What's the plan there?
So Barnett, the walkway in the back section is virtually at existing grade there. One of the erroneous spot shots that we had on there that Aaron picked up on was an elevation 10. Right now, we brought that to elevation 8. We corrected that in the back of the wall. You could see elevation 8. There's elevation, 7 right there that's existing. So against the wall, we're coming up maybe a foot. That retaining wall is a 5-foot engineered retaining wall from a structural engineer. So there will be a retaining wall up there to handle all that fill. So, you may have a foot of elevation rise over there, and that's just based on the design of that structural engineered wall. But for the most part back there, you're pretty much at existing grade.
Okay, that's for the pool area. What about further west along that walkway, item
Yep.
4?
We're not even.
That's not associated with part of this specific application.
Yeah,
That was
but
part of the original
That was an
application, and there
existing.
was no change.
Got you.
Instead of trying to rip that out and creating more havoc, we decided we can just leave it and not touch it and disturb.
Okay, I apologize.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
So
no,
Martin,
just here
for
to clarify.
grades, and I know you went out there, the existing garage slab is still there on site. And that elevation of that slab is 8.5. So when you're standing on site, it's relatively flat, this area of the site, except for when we get to the actual drop off where the water course and the outlet pipe here are.
So the subject of this application is the proposed pool. Is there
And
another
landscape
application?
walks.
Is there a future application or a past application that supports the activity behind the residence?
Yes.
Okay.
When you say behind, you mean this addition behind, or are you talking behind to the north?
Yeah, behind there where the walkway is and, behind the addition and through there.
So that was previously approved by the agency, and
Okay.
and at that time of application, they removed this scope of the project because they
Okay.
needed to do further engineering and survey work.
Okay.
So the existing grades here are proposed to maintain. This is an existing, I'm
Okay.
trying to see, this is elevation 6
Yeah.
in here. And here's
then
8.
it's-
So the
yeah.
site's, between roughly elevation 7.
Yeah. It's just,
But
there was.
this area,
Anyways, it's sketchy, there are pockets back there subject to erosion and it looks a little unstable. And then, somebody put some stones there to support it and it's fairly recent activity and it doesn't seem to be part of, what's going on. And I think that I just want to be able to visualize, what the future is going to look like for that area. And to make sure, the erosion control is up, and which is outside our permitted area. Now, I don't mean to be a total pain in the neck, but
Sure.
yeah, that erosion control is up and it should be maintained. And, I think it's important to look at it as, you know, the project moves forward.
Yeah, yeah, you
Right, and
definitely,
I did see from the storms, there was a tree that came down and there was one area. I didn't see the fence actually being compromised by washout, you know, as far as overtopping. However, there were areas that were damaged from either limbs or small trees that had come down during some of that weather we had. So that would be absolutely, Travis, you'd have your site contractor go out and reinstall the areas that are damaged.
Correct. I'll be happy to meet there with you, Aaron, just to go over and just double check and make sure everything is good, and we'll, you know, happy to make it whatever you need. So not an issue.
Yeah, the language, Martin, of the ENS, you know, my standard ENS control condition is in that approval as well. So, you know, that they would have to, at my direction, install any additional, whether it's a second layer of silt fence or staked hay bales as well to help reinforce that if, you know, construction activities are encroaching near that limit of disturbance, just to protect that bank. So we're not getting into that sloped area.
Yeah, that
The
sounds good.
original plan, I believe it was just to seed and maintain that as
Okay.
lawn, basically how it had been.
Yeah,
There isn't a crossing or anything, you know, this property is owned by the owners to the north. But there is access to this site up near Tuxas Road. So it's not where you have to walk through the wetland and cross over the water course to have access to this property. Even though it's being constructed as a single family dwelling with a pool, it's essentially being used by the property to the north as their pool house and guest house.
okay.
So the intent is to use it as one parcel.
Oh, okay.
and Martin, my the note on my plan is even a little bit more intense than Aaron's. I don't stop at erosion silt fence and staked hay bales. My note basically says whatever needs to be done. So whatever needs to go in, you know, if the town goes out there and tells them, hey, you need more erosion controls, you know, we have carte blanche to put whatever we need in there, hydroseed, blankets, whatever it takes. But it's definitely something, not a site that's hidden from anybody.
Sure.
Everybody's out in the open, you know, the neighbors are out there, more people walk in that area and you know, pretty much throughout the town. It is a high traffic, high volume area, and somebody sees something down, you know, especially with Travis there and Anthony LaFata as the contractor, I don't think they're going to think twice about getting it back up.
Yeah. I didn't see anything that was alarming. It just seemed precarious back through there.
My guess is that it was likely, you know, if anything was set there, it was likely during, you know, pouring of that foundation or excavation for that addition on the west side. And so, yeah, and Anthony would be more than happy to meet out there as well. He's responsive.
Yeah. So I
Sounds
think,
good.
yeah, so I think that's great. It is a precarious, it is really close to that stream channel. And you know, we did note on the sidewalk that there were trees down, at least one across. So it would be great to do a check of the ENS controls so that can be stabilized. I think we get more rain coming up this week, maybe not snow, but rain.
Again.
Mm-hmm.
Again, are there other questions or comments for the applicant on this application?
Yeah, if I could switch gears a little bit, because it sounds like that's more of a compliance issue with the old application. But on the new application, which looks like it's the pool and the patio, Mike, what's the before the pool and the patio goes in? What's the grounds there now? Is it covered? Is it just lawn? What's there now?
Yeah, so pretty much the site is all lawn. What's not lawn is the existing driveway and garage slab that's there. So the next phase of it will be probably, I would have to say, relocating the storm drainage and then putting in the retaining walls for the pool.
So that was my next question. You're putting pavers there? I'm looking at my set of the plans and
Yep.
that you gave.
Yep. So what we're
Pavers.
actually, what we're actually doing is we're putting in a poured wall in one section, an engineered design wall with terraces, and that supports the pool being elevated. And then we come back in and then we pour the pool within the rectangular wall system that's there.
And the runoff, I'm sorry, maybe I'm being a little bit too focused on that, but I was getting to the point where obviously there's going to be some runoff. Is there any kind of proposal on this plan that would address any kind of runoff, or don't you think it's necessary?
Yeah, no, so we went through the drainage calcs prior to submitting this, and the net pre versus post development impervious is basically a wash when we go through it. So the drainage calcs didn't warn any potential, let's say galley system or anything like that. The other thing that's hard on this site is the groundwater, as you know from being out there, is so high up that any system that you would try to put in would be flooded instantaneously. So,
Yeah,
with not increase in impervious, we didn't feel the need to have to, put in some sort of drainage system for this development.
am I wrong in my understanding that you are putting impervious where the pool is, right? And are the pavers are considered non-pervious?
So we are calling out for, let me just go to the patio, 17.
Because I would think there'd be some runoff from the pavers themselves.
Yeah, is what happens is, bear with me here. When the pool is final designed, whether it's pavers or bluestone, they're usually done in a way where there's two ways. One, it could be pervious, which they go through and then they'll drain out the sides of the wall or through the bottom, or two, they'll be impervious, where they'll have drains that would flow towards the pool and then eventually spill out on the sides. But the amount of impervious, basically the pool is going in place of where the garage is now.
Okay, that's what I didn't understand. Okay, so you're replacing some impervious with some impervious. That's all I
Yes, sir.
need to know.
We took down the two, or it might have been a 3-car garage, and the pool is basically going almost right on top of where the slab is, pre-existing.
Great, thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, any other questions? Okay, well, we can do a motion. We've got a staff suggested resolution. I haven't heard anybody saying they want modifications, but of course we can add those after we get a second for a motion, or you can add them in your motion.
I move we approve, I'll make a motion, Aaron. Kayla. I move we approve application 2303, 15 Prospect Street with the conditions, 2 conditions outlined in the draft staff draft memo of February 6th, 2023. And
okay. Anybody? I'll second about that. So we've got a motion and a second. So given our discussion and our back and forth with the applicant and getting clarification on this project, is there any other discussion or comments or conditions agency members want to
nope.
discuss?
I just wanted to clarify so the commission knew the number one, the first condition is your standard 48 hours, but I also added that prior to the actual relocation or the replacement of the pipe, that staff be again notified 48 hours prior to that activity. So we could arrange to have staff out there monitoring during that actual activity.
Very good.
Yeah, no, that's great. And then our second condition is the standard E&S All right, so there's no other conditions, comments? Okay, all in favor of this motion as
Aye.
discussed? Raise your
Aye.
hand,
Aye.
say aye.
That's an aye.
All right, okay, it's approved. With
Thank you
those
guys very
conditions.
much. One last
Thank
parting
you.
note. I will not be going to Key West, nor will I be going to the Caribbean. So hopefully somebody
All
else
right.
gets to leave.
Yeah, all right.
All right,
Well,
guys,
we're
thank you
all
very
here.
much. We'll
Thank
see you
you.
soon. Have a
Thank
great
you.
day.
You too.
Okay, so we are now moving on
Okay.
to our receipts.
Yes.
So, yes, so we have our first receipt, which is application 23-04, 41-42 Wilshire Lane. And it appears to be an emergency septic repair. And it says request maybe for section 13. So I don't know, Erin, were you going to talk about
Sure,
that?
I can give
or-
you a little information on that. So this is a situation, this particular area that has been, I believe, built in the 60s, unfilled wetlands. This particular unit or pair of units has had 3 failed systems over a series of couple of decades here. This is in a new proposed location. The engineer, it's an engineered system going under both parking lot and within existing lawn area. There are some catch basins or drainage areas that will be protected with ENS controls. The only note that I have, this is a system that is bleeding out and has been for some time. So there is a sense of urgency and benefit to approving this on an agent level. But however, the ENS controls are shown. There's one corner to try and go around an existing catch basin that's shown for installation within the wetland. It's my recommendation, and in order to be approved as an agent approval, there cannot be activity within the actual wetland. So you would need to modify his plan to pull that ENS controls up into the upland review area, which he can do. There's room for that. And then it would be, in my opinion, qualify for an agent approval so that we can get that repair done, and hopefully it lasts longer than the previous systems.
Okay. Does anybody have any comments or concerns about getting the ENS controls out of the wetland and turning this into a section 13?
I think it makes good sense to move the silt fence, upland of the catch basin. Just from a erosion control standpoint, it's important to exclude them. And then going to a section 13, I think is appropriate, especially considering the circumstances.
Yeah, I guess I agree. So can we make a motion then? Can we,
Sure.
do we vote on this? Because it's received. Okay. Does anybody want to do a motion? I can do one. I move that we have the applicant move the silt fence out of the wetland, away from the catch basin, and have this be a section 13. Not very graceful. If anybody second, we can.
I second.
All right, is there a discussion or clarification? Does that work,
No.
Erin? Does that get us where we need to be?
It gets us there. That's fine.
Why I don't do motions. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, all
Aye.
right, excellent. Excellent. Okay, so on to the next one. So the next application for receipt that has been received, and again, as a reminder, for the rest of these, we can think about if, the things we need to think about. Do we want to do a site walk? Are they significant activity? Do we need a public hearing? Those kind of things. So our first one up is 23-05, 11 Yankee Peddler Path. And this is to install a pool, lots of pools. So if you looked at the, I'm pulling that up. If you look at the, sorry.
I have a hard time pulling it up on my computer while we're talking. Aaron, can you show us? Is that what you're gonna pull up?
Sure,
Yellow.
it's roughly, yep, I can pull it up. It's roughly 60 feet, 68 feet from a pond on the property. The site's relatively flat. There's some slope on the hillside. Here it is. Existing home, existing pond on the property that was field delineated. The wetland line, the proposed edge of the patio for the pool is 68 feet.
Okay,
At
yeah.
our closest point, there's some slope up in this direction here. However, the rest of the site, although the topography is not shown on this particular plan, I did look at GIS, it's relatively flat. And ENS controls are proposed in this area here. So the question would be whether or not the commission would want to walk that site prior to hearing more details at your next meeting.
Can we
Right.
also, yeah, I'm wondering, is it, I mean, is the applicant here and listening, or is it worth providing them feedback
No.
at the point? No.
No, so what we've been doing with our receipts is they're received, and then we are going through and deciding if we need to do a site walk or a public hearing or whatever it is. And we schedule that, and then they come at the next meeting, and we can give them feedback, and then they have another meeting.
Okay, I
So
got you.
they've got two meetings
Okay,
within our statute to get this settled.
got you.
So it's really, the point of determining whether or not you want to go on a site walk is whether or not you feel that the site development plan itself is, clear enough, or provides enough information, or if you think this could be a unique site or something worth seeing actually on the field, in the field. To help orientate yourself to the site and the proposal with respect to the wetlands.
Right, and so that's what we've been, some of the some places we have felt that it's been useful, and it has been useful to go and see them, and others we have felt that it's fine not to see them, but of course we get more information from the applicant at the next meeting. So that's our decision tonight. Do we, I don't think it's a significant activity. I don't think we need a public hearing. It's going to be more, do we want to go see this, or do we just think that this one is okay not to see?
You can also, this is a good opportunity if anybody wanted, the applicant to provide photos of the site. This is a good time that you can say, hey, if you decide you didn't want to walk something, but you want to have photos as well. I don't think that's a requirement in our applications, but of course can be very helpful in your review if you don't have an opportunity to get there.
So it's pretty quiet. I'm sensing.
Is it the pool like you said, it's a very level site as far as runoff or anything, but you're talking the pool. Is it the pool or the fence or the patio that are 70 feet, 68 feet from the pond?
The patio, is, the limits of the
Patio is-
patio are 68 feet. So the pool itself is 18 by 36. And then the overall dimensions, it's a 26-foot wide patio and a 50-foot length total. So there's like a little larger patio area on the wetland side
on the
of
wetland.
the pool, for lounging or more, furniture space as opposed to the typical walk
Right.
around area.
I've always had a feeling in my days as a wetland agent that in-ground pools have an envelope, but there's activity around that envelope, usually with vehicles, that extends past what a site plan shows. And they always became applications to the commission. They're just big activities to me.
Oh, I'm not recommending this as an agent approval. We're just deciding if you want to walk it or not. If you want to
Yeah,
add it
so
to your
this-
site walk.
Yeah,
Sorry.
so this is,
And where
I
I was
agree.
going was, I could go for a walk.
Okay.
okay. So we have
No.
somebody who wants to go walking. We can walk, we can always walk. So any other, so that is all we need to do. We need to just decide if we want to schedule this for a sidewalk or not.
Yeah, I have a feeling that I'm going to ask that we walk the next application. So since we're doing a site walk anyway.
Okay. I guess I should have
think-
said that too. Yeah, all right.
Yeah, I think.
If we're doing one, we may as well just go.
I think I'm good. I think I'm good. I think I'm good with Joe to, to walk it, especially since we're going to be someplace else
Okay,
same morning.
all right. So that's great. We don't have to vote on that, do we? Aaron, or do we? No, we just say we're gonna do a sidewalk. Okay,
Right.
so we'll walk,
That's okay.
or do we have to vote on a sidewalk? We don't have to. I can remember. All right,
No, that's okay. We'll schedule that one.
okay,
Um,
and then, all right, so 23-06 is 14 New Road. And yes, this one seems, there's a 4,000 square foot addition to an existing building, not that far from our other new road, right?
So actually, yes, this right next door to the west is this light industrial site. They're proposing additions and then replacement of storm drain system on the property. Portions of the activity of the site work is outside of the inland wetlands jurisdiction. However, there is an existing drainage easement actually over the welding works property for an existing storm drain pipe that is damaged and undersized, where the applicant is proposing to replace that, and which would outlet at Fence Creek, as shown on the plan. So this one, and that would be my recommendation as well, that it would be beneficial for the commission to see that, as well as we can manage to walk back there on that backside of the property. And the question is then, as this is outletting at Fence Creek, is there a desire to see this as a significant activity, including public hearing process? There is existing storm drain and soils investigation report as included as part of your application materials already at this point. So I'm not sure that, by adding significant activity that you would be getting a lot more new information, but that's up to you. It's my understanding that the outlet is at the edge of the inland wetland line, the delineated marker.
Mhm.
That's from what I saw on the engineered plans.
Yeah, I had a hard time finding it on the plans, but
Yeah.
that might have just been me.
You'd have to go to the storm drain sheet.
Was C2?
And
C1,
again, the
C2?
applicant's engineer, he is here. If Mark Davis, if you do have a question for him, he is in attendance. if that helps clarify how you wanted to look to handle this, he is available.
So Aaron, to understand correctly, are you saying that the building itself is outside of the 100-foot review area or not?
Yeah, let me get you, I'll pull up the plan set real quick. Hold on a second here.
Because if that's outside, then we don't really have any jurisdiction over the building, just the storm drain. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I mean, the runoff from the site, overall, without getting too much detail here, let me see if I can show you where our 100-foot upland review line is. There are no inland wetlands on this particular property. There, the closest inland wetlands are, here, let me try and zoom in here so you can see it.
I don't see a survey or anything, so maybe that's why.
So I can show you here. So if I zoom out.
Was
Here's
that in
New
our
Road.
document?
Yes, all this is in the documents. It's behind the architectural drawings. It's part of that plan set, Bob.
Okay.
So this is New Road here, and the existing driveway comes down. This is all existing building. There's a proposed front addition infill in this portion here. Parking lot activity. The closest inland wetlands are here on the right at the boundary, actually at the property line. Really, this is that back building of welding works that was having part of their addition removed. So this is down behind their site here, in between the railroad company, and this is where the existing outlet pipe comes out. And so this area here, if I can give you, this is a grading plan that shows extent of grading for the outlet pipe, but there is a drainage plan here. It's a 24-inch, it's 309 linear feet of HDPE pipe with a flared end here, which if I can zoom in, we may be able to see where, so the wetland flagging is, it's faint under here. We've got wetland flags 1, 2, 3 is in here, and then 4 and 5. So this is where the existing pipe outlet is. So there will be activity in here, and that's likely the area, if we can hike back in there, that you would be most interested in. As part of the overall application process, the engineer will detail through the treatment of stormwater for the treatment prior to discharge of that stormwater into Fence Creek. Which at this point, my understanding is that stormwater is not being treated.
How much is that storm? Go ahead, Bob, sorry.
I just want to make sure. So our jurisdiction emanates from or comes from the fact that there's going to be substantial runoff into this pipe and then into the wetlands.
Well, this pipe is being replaced. This is all new. So this is a regulated activity for installing this storm drain. You can pull your jurisdiction further than, as this is directly, not just the proposed pipe within the 100-foot upland review area, but the potential impacts of the site improvements here on that Fence Creek.
But it's contingent upon them to approve the storm pipe or the drainage pipe, the treatment, whatever, into the wetlands. Otherwise, if they can't use that easement to, have the pipe and then, get the water to drain off, then the project probably won't go forward, I would imagine, unless they can find an alternative route. And so that's why there's going to be a lot of disturbance within either the uplands or the wetlands associated with where that pipe is going. I just want to make sure I understand what our role is here.
So,
because-
right, so this is an overflow pipe, essentially. It's an overflow from the existing. So the engineer will detail with you how the storm drainage system is designed to hold particular storm events and to treat the parking lot water. And actually, I guess on an industrial site, the roof leaders are, roof water is not considered clean water as well. So they'll walk you through the entire drainage proposal and how they're looking to treat that. And then their wetland scientists will also have to provide information as far as potential impacts from not only the adjacent parking lot improvements, but also the installation of that pipe. So
Okay.
really, this is your question, this is your time to determine if you would like this to move to a public hearing, or if you would just like to take this as a regulated activity permit.
Aaron, just so I'm
You
clear
had your
though,
hand raised.
all this drainage that's shown on this plan, it's all existing right now, except for the outlet?
There's an existing drain system, which I believe there's an existing conditions map. This is an
Okay,
existing
so that's all new on,
topography.
that's all new that we were just looking at as well.
Yes, that's all new proposed improvements. Mhm.
Okay,
Which,
That's-
my understanding, would be designed in accordance with the stormwater manual.
got it, okay.
And that's where the engineer will walk you through that design, and the wetland scientist be present at your next meeting as well if you have specific questions.
So this is basically an upgrade then, you're saying, from what's happening now, I would think, right? Am I incorrect in that assumption?
The treatment of stormwater, for sure, yes.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay.
And potentially the capacity. There's significant flooding issues on this property. If anybody has driven by and seen some of that during a storm, whether the existing overflow pipe is, there are dry wells on the or an infiltration system, but the overall overflow pipe is an old clay pipe, I believe the engineer had said, that is not functioning. So they've had situations where their roof leaders have backed up into the building during storm events and ponding on the site. And so based on the growth of their business, they're really looking to have that mitigated on site and to be able to utilize not only for parking, but to have appropriate storm drainage.
So my vote is a site visit. I'm not as concerned about a public hearing.
Okay. Yes, I think we definitely should do a site visit. Does anybody feel strongly about a public hearing? I think Aaron was right. They have provided a lot of information that we're going to have to go through and ask them about at our next meeting. All right.
Works
So
for
we'll go walk there. All right. So our last. Pardon?
No, I was gonna say, I'm fine with a sidewalk. It's new road. It's right next to 11 Yankee Peddler.
Yeah. Yep.
Should
We
be able
planned
to
that,
get over
Tom.
there. Should be able to get over there in no time.
Just like last month.
Yeah. Our last application for receipt that's been received that we need to decide about is, if we want to go visit, is 23-07 304 Cops Road. And these people would like to, let's see, they can replace their septic system and do an addition and renovation in a patio within the 100-foot review.
So you've
So-
seen this property before for tree removal, that at your last meeting, the agency allowed that to be issued through an agent approval as the individual trees were identified on the survey. The applicant this was a new property owner. The septic system needs to be replaced on the property regardless of additions. It's my understanding it's either cesspool or it's not your typical leaching field system. They're proposing to do a small 250 square foot addition to the rear of the property, convert the existing deck into a porch, and add a new patio into the backyard. It's all within the upland review area. The agency, you didn't walk this easily. There's a water course that loops around the rear and south side of the property, and would be again relatively flat on the site, but within your purview if you're out and about and would like to walk the site to familiarize yourselves.
Right, so this is, do we add this on or not? Okay,
Does anyone
There
want
you
to
go.
see it?
does anybody want to see it? And have they taken the trees down already?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Well, maybe we should see it. It'll, you know, they're gonna either have taken the trees down or the trees are coming down. We're gonna be out, so.
I'm
we
okay
can-
with that.
Unless there's just a rebellion, we can walk this one too.
Rebellion.
Sidewalk.
Resistance.
We'll get our steps in. These are good
Add that
steps
one on?
in.
Okay.
Yeah,
So we got
Okay.
3.
so we have 3.
All right. So we have 3.
Now,
Okay. So we
Erin,
need to talk about our date for that, which we can talk under remarks. Yeah, we can get through minutes, I guess, if you'd like to do that first, and I'll pull up the calendar.
okay, so, right, that takes care of receipts. You actually discussed the section 13, it's the same site on Cops Road. We have the violations, so that's 144 Neck Road where we just met with the owner, applicant, or violator, whatever. And have you heard back? Have they managed to get someone out to delineate wetlands?
Yes, so those minutes are not on, just our
No.
special walk meeting and our regular, I think we forgot to add it. So the approval
Okay.
of those January, I think it was the 17th. I'll
Yeah,
add those to our next meeting for approval.
okay,
Can we back up on that Neck Road violation? Weren't we
Yeah,
going
well,
to
that's what
go
I'm-
see that? And then he decided that he didn't want us to, has he?
right,
So the applicant wasn't available on the date of our last, or the property owner, and they had contacted us in between the special meeting and our walk meeting, you know, posting that agenda, and said they weren't able to get anybody to the site to meet the commission there
guess-
for a site walk. And so we
I guess-
wouldn't, you know, it's not recommended to walk it without an owner's rep on the property. So that could be one. I did actually talk with Patrick today, and he indicated that he expects the survey very shortly, that the soil scientist was out there and delineated the wetlands and the survey was done. And they're actually just working on that in the field. They're moving forward with a design for an application that they're hoping to, they acknowledge that the corrective action would be handled, you know, as far as the clearing would be handled through a corrective action order. However, they anticipate that they're going to be submitting an application for a new septic system and potential, you know, project on the existing house for receipt at your next meeting.
Okay,
Our
so we don't
cease and
need to see it.
correct order-
we don't-
Yeah, we
Go
gave
ahead.
them 60 days to provide that survey. So really, that's the March meeting, was when we kind of anticipated that we would get new information from them. Based on the information we uploaded from the adjacent property to the north, that there's really no doubt in my mind that there's inland wetlands on the property. So I think we acted in accordance with our regulations in issuing the order. So, and there's really no site work. The applicant was hoping to be able to do some soil testing up in the upland area by the driveway for design work for a septic system. Typically, we don't regulate soil testing on properties. I wanted to at least let you know that that's something that they would do, and I'll likely receive phone calls from neighbors if they see an excavator out there digging a couple of test pits. But I guess that's up to you if you see a concern with that. It's not in the lower area behind the house. It's up by the circular drive area where in the vicinity of the existing septic system now.
And all work stopped in the area violation.
What's that?
Correct. I mean, you're pretty sure and can verify that all work has stopped within the area where the violation.
Oh, yeah. Oh, clearing. Absolutely. The silt fence was installed and all the machinery was removed from site. Larry's tree removal wasn't going to leave it there. He moved on to his next job. So there's been no other site work on the property.
Okay.
So
it sounds
we don't
like-
need to see it. We don't need to see it before the next meeting, I guess. So we're gonna get a application probably at the next meeting is what I'm hearing.
You'll definitely get the wetland report and the survey at the next meeting. It was part of the corrective order that you wanted specific trees identified, and the trees that were going to be
Yes.
removed. So that will be all on the survey.
Okay.
I don't know if you want to look at that first and then determine to walk it as well. And perhaps if we do have an application for additional work, you can look at it in light of both items at the same time.
Okay.
It's up to you, really. It's stabilized, no one's working, so it could wait if you'd like to push it off to the March walk.
Right. Well, that was my question. If we needed to add it on to whatever this block is going to be, or if it makes sense to wait. You're saying.
Sounds like it makes sense to wait now that Aaron's explained it to me, but.
You may want the
Yeah.
survey in hand,
I think we do want the survey in hand to walk it.
I think that makes sense to me.
Okay. All right.
That will get resistance to walking it at all once we have the survey and a little bit better understanding of, what the direction, the remediation and the, and the renovations and the future application is going to look like, or do you think it's even necessary? I mean, I kind of think for me, I would love to see before I could make any decision. I mean, it does seem like it was done without, any kind of malice or anything, but it just seems to me that I would get a much better feel for it if I could see what, like, the size of any trees that were cut down or any kind of removal of brush. And, so to me, I think I would prefer to see it. I guess I could drive by. You can probably see it from the road. But, it'd be nice to see, his engineer there and get some explanations and see what his plans are. I don't know how the rest of the commission feels, but to me, I'd like to be able to, do the typical sidewalk.
Well, so we don't have an engineer as of yet. So we haven't received any of that information. So if you want to actually meet with their professionals as far as any future proposals, then that would be as part of the application end. Really at this point, you would be looking at the work that has been completed without a permit while we're waiting for the A2, it's an A2T2 survey. So it's going to give you topography. And they're going to identify the specific trees that were removed and what caliber those trees were. So some of that information, and it could come within the next week or so, where I could email that out to you. But yeah, I guess that's generally up to the discretion of the commission if you want to go out and see it before you receive that information or after.
So Bob, I mean, it sounds like we won't, well, we don't know if we're gonna have that information before the site walks that we have scheduled, is what you're saying, Aaron.
And we have time to do
I
it.
understand the actual field work was completed.
Okay,
What was
I
that?
don't-
Lee?
I don't really have any drop dead date to do the site walk. I just don't want it to be overlooked, I guess, as part of our process. here.
no, I don't either. I mean, I think we do definitely need to see it, but I think it'll be helpful to have the information that from the survey that they've done. So we
I
know
agree.
exactly what we're looking at.
May just hold it up another month, which is fine.
Yeah, let's wait.
Yeah. But I
Okay.
Yeah, the applicant's expecting to come back before you at your March meeting anyways, because that would be the deadline for his
Right.
corrective action, where now you're going to review the extent of what has happened and either give him, request a site walk or give additional directives as far as restoration, things of that nature. So this will likely push into April, is my understanding, before you have some sort of mitigation plan proposed before you.
Okay. Okay, so we'll have that to look forward to. It'll be warmer out, hopefully.
Hopefully.
Okay, so we can move on to approval of minutes. We have 2 minutes. We have the special walk meeting minutes from January 7th and the regular meeting minutes from January 9th. And it'd be great if we can look those over and just do an approval for both possible. So I have read both and I didn't find anything that leapt out at me. On either set, they're very thorough, which I appreciate. They're helpful to read to remind me what happened. Did anybody else see anything?
No, and I agree that they're very well done. I didn't see anything either in either one of them.
I agree. I read them both and I thought I would concur with both sets of comments. Very well done, organized, thorough. And I didn't see even a typo, so I'm usually pretty good at picking those up.
Yeah, I didn't see that. Okay, well, someone want to make a motion? No, someone should make a motion besides me because I just messed them up.
Both the special walk meeting minutes of January 7th, 2023 and the regular meeting minutes of January 9th, 2023 as submitted.
I
I second.
All
Everybody
right.
seconds.
Everybody seconds. All right. Any discussion? I think we're good. All right. All in favor of approving the minutes, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I have to abstain.
Abstain. Okay. That's okay. Okay. So onward, we have. Wait. I just did. Oh, here we go. Okay. So remarks by the chair. That's me. I don't have any remarks.
I just have
Erin?
one related to ongoing training and education opportunities. We have two. I don't know if anybody has attended the Connecticut Bar Association Land Use Commissioner Training Program. There's it's an all-day Saturday event. It kind of runs the gamut of all land use agencies, planning commission, zoning board of appeals. There's inland wetlands as well. There's sections on environmental interveners, religious exemptions, things of that nature. So that I can send the link to that event if anybody is looking for an activity for one of your Saturdays in March.
Please.
Additionally, I'm coordinating with the town planner in Old Saybrook for the general statutes were updated to require mandatory continuing education for certain land use commissions. Inland wetlands is not one, although our statutes require at least one member of the commission who has gone through the DEP training program, which I will send an email out to everybody about that, just to take a general consensus of who's taken that. I know at least Joe has, since he's an agent for another municipality. So we meet the statutes, but it is encouraged for others to attend if you have, it can all be done online. However, the town of Old Saybrook is sponsoring a gathering of land use agencies. It's education series. So the town planner's name is Chris Costa, and she has organized to have both Darcy Winther, who is the head up at DEP and has been there forever for the Inland Wetlands Management Program, and attorney Matt Willis, available to go through the ins and outs of the Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Act, and everything that agency members should know. It's a Zoom opportunity. It's going to be held on Thursday, February 23rd at 7 p.m. If anybody feels you might want to freshen up on any of that, I'm happy to send out that link and the agenda if you happen to be available that Thursday. These will also be recorded and posted on the town of Old Saybrook website. And this is just so that we can start making training and basic information sessions available to our members who are volunteers and may not have the time to attend scheduled trainings, but might be able to do so at your own convenience. So that's an initiative that we're trying to work on this year and get more information out to you. So I'll be sharing that with you as we move forward. The only other thing I wanted to do was schedule our walk meeting date. Just to, if we can, I can follow this up with an email if that's easier, if no one knows their schedule. Right now, we're booked for February 18th. That is the Saturday of President's Day weekend, which is a long holiday weekend for at least the school districts. And I know at least municipal offices are closed on that Monday. My request would be that we could reschedule that meeting. Our choices, I unfortunately have a conflict on Saturday, February 25th. So our choices are either this Saturday, the 11th, or Saturday, March 4th would be the next available date, because this is a short month ahead of our meeting on March 6th. I don't know if you have access to your calendars now and can give a consensus. Otherwise, I'll just have Maria send out an email, but I wanted to put those out there as our only possibility.
I was really hoping the 25th would work because the other two dates don't work for me.
I mean, you'd have to walk without staff and somebody would have to take minutes.
Yeah.
And you'd all have to behave and not talk in the field.
Oh, I'm definitely not behaving.
Then forget it, Martin. Teasing. So I know it's challenging. I don't know, we all have work schedules and I don't know that it's going to stay light enough, long enough in the evening. Sometimes you have flexibility of scheduling an evening meeting. But I don't know the earliest anybody would be able to get here, back here from work to do that. And I don't know how long our hours are. It was sort of getting dark at 5:30, so it's pushing later, but it's not going to give us a real window like we would during.
No.
Is Sunday sacrilege?
Typically, yes.
Typically, yeah.
I'm good both Saturdays, but I'm only one of 7, so.
I think I'm good.
Sometimes, yeah, we have to go with the majority and try to get there. If not,
March
individually.
4th, March 4th is best for me.
Yeah, I can do the 4th, I'm pretty sure. And I
mean,
can
the
do this
only-
weekend. for that.
The only thing I can do on the 25th is early, like if we could meet there at 8 rather than 8:30. We only have 3 sites. They shouldn't. But I mean, we'd have to
Hustle.
hustle. I would normally,
Put on any of them.
And then you'd have to get all your kids out of bed at 5:30 and get them dressed before you left and.
well, you know, my youngest is making her first reconciliation, or her first reconciliation at 10 o'clock at church on Saturday. So I
Wow.
really can't screw that up.
No.
And my husband
No.
works on Saturday, so I'm really kind of
Oh,
limited, unfortunately, to get
Yeah,
them all
God
out of
bless
the
you.
house for that. But
yeah.
I can accommodate a little earlier, so then at least, you know, we could wrap it up by 9. They really shouldn't take that long to walk.
Well, can you wrap it up? I mean, what is your drop dead can't, that you'd have to leave?
9:30? We can get it done in an hour and a half, right?
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, are you guys okay getting up early? Or do you
Yeah,
all get up
yeah, I'm
early?
okay with
Everyone
that.
gets up early.
And
Yeah,
8
we're
a.m.
up
I'm
early.
definitely okay with that.
Okay, well, why don't we do that? Because that keeps it, yeah, and 8's fine, and then we have all of the rest of the day
Right.
Yep.
Right.
of the weekend.
Okay, so that's on the 25th, yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Excellent. I'll send out to the rest. Anna had to leave us this evening early, but I'll let her know. Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank
I won't
you.
keep you Longer here.
So
Yeah.
that's excellent. So does someone want to make our final motion of the evening?
Make a motion to
I
adjourn.
move- I second Martin's,
All those in
I
favor say aye.
second Martin's motion.
That's the fastest motion all the evening. Nice. All right, excellent. All in favor? Raise your hand.
Aye.
All
Aye.
right, we'll see you on the 25th. Right.
Thank
early.
you.